A lot of people think karma is some kind of punishment or destiny. But what if I told you that you're creating it every single moment, even when you're doing nothing? Yep, even your thoughts and emotions are shaping your life. The good news? You can stop accumulating unnecessary karma and even dissolve the old one, and it doesn't take effort, just awareness. Sadhguru teaches that the key to a lighter life isn't running from karma, but understanding how it actually works. And once you get that, everything changes. The idea of karma goes way beyond what most people imagine. It's not just about what someone does physically, it's everything happening on a mental, emotional, and energetic level. Every repetitive thought, every emotion that takes over, even a person's overall state of mind, is shaping the karma they carry. It's not just about actions. It's also about inaction. Sitting still, avoiding decisions, that too creates karma, because even not acting is a choice. What most people don't realize is that karma isn't some kind of punishment or reward, it's simply the consequence of what you set in motion. Think about someone who spent their whole life dwelling on grudges and resentment. Even if they never lift a finger, they're still cultivating heavy karma, because their thoughts and emotions are creating a negative internal atmosphere. On the flip side, someone who acts with clarity and positive intent is shaping lighter karma, because their energy is aligned with a state of well-being. What you feel, think, and do every single day is writing the next chapter of your life, and most people don't even realize they're the author of their own story. Everything that has happened so far was written by your own hands, and what comes next will be too. This means that, at every moment, you're either adding weight to your karma or lightening the load. It doesn't matter if you're engaging with the world or just existing, karma is being created. Even small choices, like eating with awareness or avoiding unnecessary arguments, make a difference. And while you can't change what's already been written, what you create from now on is completely up to you. The problem is, most people live on autopilot, unaware of how much unnecessary karma they're accumulating. But there's a way to change that. Living without creating karma is impossible, but reducing it, that's something anyone can do. The key is raising your awareness and avoiding impulsive reactions. Most people respond to life on reflex without realizing that every reaction, every intense emotion, is adding more weight to their path. Someone who snaps in anger at every little thing is creating an endless cycle of suffering, while someone who learns to act with clarity drastically reduces the baggage they carry. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about choosing how to respond without falling into destructive patterns. The big issue is that everyday life is full of traps that create unnecessary karma. An innocent little gossip, a quick criticism, or even a negative habit fed without awareness, it all piles up without people even realizing it. But when someone learns to observe their own actions and intentions, they start cutting the problem at its root. This doesn't mean living in a state of repression, but rather developing the habit of acting with intention and avoiding wasted energy on things that add no real value. The less compulsive action you take, the lighter your journey becomes. To put this into practice, try asking yourself before acting, does this really need to be done? Will this bring anything positive, or am I just reacting out of habit? Small shifts like this already change how karma builds up. Think of it like carrying a backpack. Every unconscious choice adds more weight. But every decision made with awareness removes an unnecessary burden, making the path ahead lighter. And when this practice becomes a way of life, something surprising starts to happen. The key to reducing karma isn't just about avoiding impulsive actions, it's about transforming your entire inner structure. Programs like Inner Engineering were designed exactly for this, to help people raise their awareness and in turn lighten the mental and emotional load they carry. When someone lives without awareness, everything affects them: other people's words, external situations, even their mood for the day. But when you work on your energy and perception, impulsive reactions fade away, and life takes on an unexpected sense of ease. Imagine someone who always reacts to problems with stress and anxiety. That mental pattern becomes a cycle that reinforces their own suffering. But by learning practices that improve clarity and inner balance, a person starts breaking that cycle. Instead of reacting with fear or frustration, they begin to choose their responses more consciously. Something that once caused an emotional storm now just becomes a passing event, leaving no lasting impact. This shift drastically reduces the creation of new karma and opens the door to a more effortless way of living. For those looking to take the first step, practices like conscious breathing and daily meditation already make a huge difference. Instead of just reacting to the world, you start becoming an observer of yourself. This state of presence doesn't mean distancing yourself from life. It means engaging with it in a deeper and less chaotic way. Over time, your mind stops being a battlefield and becomes a powerful tool for living with greater freedom. And that freedom only becomes possible when you realize that even the simple act of breathing has a profound impact on your karma. Nature doesn't see karma as good or bad, it's just an interconnected cycle. Every action creates a reaction, and even something as simple as breathing is proof of that. When you exhale, trees absorb that air and return oxygen, creating a perfect balance. This means karma isn't about stopping action, but learning to act in a way that doesn't create imbalance. When someone moves through life wasting energy on unnecessary actions, they're throwing their own existence into chaos. But when they learn to align their energy with the natural flow of life, the weight they carry gets lighter. Think about the difference between a river and a stagnant puddle. A river constantly flows, renewing itself and adapting to its surroundings. But a puddle just sits there, collecting dirt and becoming a breeding ground for disease. The same thing happens in life when a person acts in tune with what truly matters, without holding on to what they don't need. Their karma moves in a balanced way. But when there's resistance, stagnation, or attachment to destructive patterns, life starts feeling heavy and suffocating. The key isn't avoiding action, but removing the unnecessary and flowing with ease. That doesn't mean you should stop working, interacting, or chasing your goals. The point is that every choice can be made with more awareness, so energy isn't wasted on cycles that lead nowhere. Simple habits like cultivating gratitude for what you already have can shift how karma plays out in your life. After all, it's not about eliminating karma that's impossible, but about minimizing its impact and directing it wisely. And when that shift happens, even the body starts reflecting that transformation. Completely eliminating karma is impossible, but learning to minimize it is an art. Even a yogi in deep meditation still breathes, and that simple act is already a form of karma. The difference is that they reduce it to the bare minimum, making their existence lighter and less affected by unnecessary cycles. Most people, however, don't just create karma, they accumulate it compulsively. Every exaggerated reaction, every obsessive thought, every uncontrolled emotion adds more weight to their journey. And all of that could be avoided if there was just more awareness in everyday life. Think about the difference between someone who constantly reacts on impulse and someone who's learned to act with clarity. The first person is always getting pulled into drama, stress, and conflict, increasing their karma every moment. The second chooses their actions wisely, without getting swept away by fleeting emotions. This doesn't mean living without feelings, it means not being a slave to them. Over time, this approach creates a more effortless way of living, where challenges are faced without unnecessary suffering. After all, karma isn't punishment, it's just a reflection of the choices you make. The practice of minimizing karma starts with something simple, cultivating a state of presence. Small shifts, like taking a deep breath before reacting to something annoying, already make a difference. Meditating for just a few minutes each day helps create that inner space between stimulus and response. And as the mind becomes quieter, the need for compulsive reactions fades. This is the path to inner freedom, where life doesn't have to feel like a constant struggle. But here's where many people get it wrong. Sitting still and doing nothing doesn't mean karma stops existing. A lot of people think that by not acting, they're avoiding karma. But that's an illusion. Even staying still takes effort because the mind keeps running, generating thoughts and emotions that feed new cycles. Someone could spend the whole day on the couch, but if they're stuck in resentment, judging others, or feeling sorry for themselves, they're creating karma just as much as someone acting impulsively. Inaction isn't the same as lightness most of the time. It's just a disguised form of resistance, trapping a person in even deeper stagnation. It's easy to justify inaction when the world feels overwhelming. Some people believe that distancing themselves from problems will protect them from suffering. But the truth is, running away doesn't reduce karma, it just postpones the inevitable. Even a monk living in a cave still has to deal with his own mind. If he doesn't transform his perception, he's just carrying his karma into a different setting. Real freedom doesn't come from inaction, it comes from the ability to act without attachment to the outcome, without creating internal resistance. So if standing still isn't the answer, what actually works? The key is learning how to respond to life consciously. This doesn't mean acting randomly or rushing into things. It means choosing wisely when and how to engage. It's not about doing a lot or doing nothing, it's about doing what truly matters. People who understand this start shaping their own destiny instead of just being a pawn in the game. But to take this step, you need to develop a sense of balance, knowing when to act and when to simply observe. Most people do the opposite of what would be ideal. They're selective in their responses but reckless in their actions. They only react to what interests them but waste energy on meaningless activities. True balance is about responding to life with openness, without creating resistance, while carefully choosing where to place your energy. This means not everything needs to be done, not everything needs to be said. But whatever is done should be done with total awareness. Acting on impulse is like firing shots in every direction, without knowing the target. A lot of effort, with very little result. Imagine someone who feels obligated to please everyone. This person spends their time trying to solve problems that aren't even theirs, draining themselves emotionally and creating unnecessary karmic TIs. Now, think about someone who knows where they can actually make a difference and chooses their actions wisely. They don't shut themselves off from the world, but they also don't jump into every situation without thinking. They respond with empathy, but they only act where their energy can truly be useful. In the end, the difference between a light path and a karma-filled one comes down to this. The best way to develop this skill is by asking yourself, does this really require my action or just my conscious presence? Sometimes the right response to a situation isn't action, it's observation. Other times, a small gesture can change everything. Those who understand this stop wasting energy on things they can't control and start focusing it where it actually matters. But to do that, it's crucial to understand one of the biggest generators of karma: excessive thinking and worrying. Thinking is essential, but overthinking can be a burden. The human mind has a way of creating problems that don't even exist, simply by repeating negative thoughts over and over. When someone worries excessively, they're basically training their mind to see difficulties everywhere, even when there's no reason to. This mental pattern creates an invisible, but very real form of karma, which builds up over time and affects the body, emotions, and even the opportunities that come or don't come into their life. Anyone who's ever laid in bed at night, unable to sleep because their mind won't stop racing, knows exactly what this kind of karma feels like. This happens a lot when it comes to health. Someone feels a small discomfort, and instead of simply observing, they panic searching symptoms online until they convince themselves something is seriously wrong. This constant fear creates a vicious cycle. The more they worry, the more tension the body holds, and the more the nervous system reacts with stress. What started as a minor issue turns into an actual problem. And the craziest part, in many cases, it's the fear of being sick that actually makes people feel unwell. The mind is incredibly powerful, but very few people know how to use it to their advantage. The solution isn't to stop thinking, but to use thoughts productively. The mind should be a tool, not a prison. Simple practices like setting specific times to reflect on problems help prevent endless mental loops. Techniques like conscious breathing or writing down worries on paper can bring clarity and keep negative thoughts from turning into unnecessary karma. But beyond just avoiding the creation of new burdens, there's something even more powerful: learning how to dissolve old karma. The karma you've accumulated throughout your life doesn't have to be carried forever. Just like a mirror can be cleaned, karmic baggage can also be dissolved, and it happens naturally when you start living with more awareness. The problem is, most people constantly react to situations, repeating unconscious patterns that reinforce what they've already created in the past. But when you choose to act with clarity and presence, instead of giving in to automatic impulses, the weight of that karma starts to fade. You don't have to fight to get rid of it. You just have to stop feeding it. Think about someone who keeps attracting the same kinds of problems. Maybe they always end up in toxic relationships or constantly find themselves in stressful situations. That's not a coincidence, it's karma in action. But when that person changes their approach, when they stop reacting in the same way, something interesting happens. The cycle breaks. Karma can't survive without your participation. The moment you stop reinforcing the same emotional responses, the cycle loses its power and starts dissolving on its own. The key to this is mindfulness. Practices like observing your breath, staying present in interactions, and avoiding impulsive reactions create a new internal pattern. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, it means allowing them to come and go without creating new attachments. Living this way turns every moment into an opportunity for cleansing, rather than more accumulation. And when you master this, you unlock a level of freedom that very few people ever experience. After all, true liberation from karma happens when you learn to respond to life with awareness. The most powerful way to reduce karma and dissolve the past is in how you respond to life. Instead of reacting compulsively to every situation, you can cultivate a state of presence where your responses are intentional and aligned with what truly matters. Most people go through life on autopilot, constantly pulled by emotions, impulses, and unconscious habits. But those who learn to pause before acting, who develop this awareness, start experiencing a lightness that few ever know. The difference between karmic entanglement and true freedom lies in this simple shift. This applies even to the smallest situations. Imagine someone receiving a harsh criticism. They could instantly react with irritation and fuel a cycle of conflict. Or they could simply notice the emotion rising, take a deep breath, and choose not to engage in the drama. It might seem like a small detail, but this is exactly how karma stops multiplying. The world stays the same, but the way you interact with it changes completely. And this not only prevents new suffering, it also dissolves the residue of the past. This practice of mindfulness doesn't have to be complicated. Simple habits like pausing for a second before responding to someone, walking while noticing your breath, or even eating with more awareness already make a huge difference. Every time you choose awareness over automatic reaction, karma loses a bit of its grip. And this shift doesn't just bring more lightness to life, it also creates space for something even more transformative. If every choice, thought, and emotion is creating karma, then the real question is, are you adding more weight or finally learning to set yourself free? Now that you know how to reduce the creation of karma and dissolve the old, why not start applying this knowledge in your own life? The more awareness, the less suffering. If this teaching resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep going on this journey of transformation.